I guess I'll start giving crap away. Yeah, awesome. You guys look pretty trash. You own the anime. Pretty sweet how we lined that up, huh? Yeah, you even got badges.
We got a badge that allowed us to issue other people badges.
No way.
Yeah, this is the badge of the guy who does the voice of Team Adventure.
Wow, that's pretty sweet.
You got the root certificate.
Next year, we're just going to have ShmooCon in that hotel, so you won't have to commute back and forth. Yeah, okay. So, men's large. Who doesn't have an EFF shirt already?
I don't.
You don't? I like to give stuff to girls, and I usually don't get the chance, so sorry, guys. Yeah, especially men's shirts. Well, you know. You can bargain with her, or trade her, or something. Network security assessment. Who's gonna read this book? Because if you're really looking for a doorstop, you want this security power. This is a much bigger book. Not as big as the Snort book, but okay. You really want this? Sure. I guess you have to sit in the front if you want stuff. All right. Oh, minor damage. Sorry about that. You can trade it for. Okay. Still readable. Security power. You just want the biggest book you can get. You need a big book? You're going to give it to the IT guy? I like the sound of that, but I think
at a high velocity.
Who's going to read this book? Like, okay, you with the Michael Jackson glove. Yeah, okay. Actually, I'll tell you what. There's another copy sitting here that was abandoned. I'll give it to the IT guy. Okay. I'm gonna get off stage expeditiously, but I do want to say quickly that at ShmooCon, what we try to do is get a good mix of speakers, and partly we have to do that by inviting the guys that we know are badasses. And so in this case, a friend of the Shmoo group and certainly of ShmooCon, this is a guy that we actually want on stage because we like this guy. Other
like
speakers.
Shit at me.
And I do like to throw shit at just about anybody. But also, we also want to bring in a lot of new people, and so every year, we bring in new speakers that you haven't seen before and that we haven't had a chance to see before. So anyway, hopefully you'll dig Renderman. I don't know where Renderman's girlfriend is, but she's really smart.
There.
And,
she was at the Anime Con too, so.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Pablos. You guys look like I feel. All right. Interest of full disclosure, I originally put this talk in because I wanted to get in for free. I didn't actually expect to have to do it, so. It doesn't mean I gave it my best. In all honesty, if you're really into wireless and screwing with the stuff, there's not really anything terribly new in here. If you want something new, go throw shit at Josh, but hopefully it'll be entertaining enough that, make it worth your while for being here. I cannot believe there are this many people here at noon on Sunday. Right. What the hell did I do to get the Sunday? Oh, yeah. Sorry for that. All right, so I decided to get literary here. The name of the talk is, How Can I Pwn Thee? Let Me Count the Ways. Considering it's around Valentine's, I figured it was kind of an apt bit of literary madness. I am Renderman. I am from Canada. Please don't hold that against me. We really are nice people. But I've been doing an awful lot of traveling lately, and when I get bored, bad things tend to happen. So I was at a conference in Toronto, Sector, which, if you have the opportunity to go to, there, I said it. This is Brian, he actually runs the thing, so. Basically, born out of a conversation with Dino from South Africa, was another speaker, and we both spent a fair bit of time at airports, and when we get bored, you're sitting at the departures lounge, you're like, I got 20 minutes to fill. What can I do? And you look around and you see all these laptops, all these phones, and it really made us start thinking. You've got an increasingly mobile workforce, and so many devices that we use nowadays are wireless. So these people are away from the office. You don't have that big clue bat to chase after them with to keep their stuff secure. So how many ways can you get at somebody? How many ways can you screw with them? This is by no means an exhaustive list, but this is ways that really just on the surface, just looking at it, can make your day suck. This is Bob. Bob's going to be our little bitch for this session here.
Hi, Bob.
Bob has bitches.
Bob works for Widgets International, selling widgets. Fancy that. Traveling to customer sites. I mean, how many of you have somebody like Bob in your office? Some guy that's always on the road, never knows what city he's in, a few of you. This guy could be your worst nightmare, right? Likes to think himself tech savvy, but really just knows enough to get access to prawn. Don't we all? This is literally going to be a worst case scenario. This guy's going to be poster child, but kind of think back to the people you've known and people you've worked with, people you've seen in airports, hotel lobbies, anime cons, and just kind of get an idea of what's going on here. Let's poem this guy. We're not going to touch him. We're not going to go up and knee him in the groin and take his wallet or something. We're not going to break into his hotel room or anything. I'm just thinking everyday public situations where you're running into, this guy, you're sitting across the way from him. How can you screw with him with stuff that reasonably somebody in this room would probably have on them at the time while they were traveling? Or somebody like me that just came back from Norway and spent a lot of time in international airports getting really pissed off at airlines, fucking SAS. Nothing quite like going from Copenhagen, flying for an hour, and then hearing, yeah, our plane's broken, got to turn around. That'll make your day suck. But, all right. Bob's got a laptop. Most of us do. Bob likes to connect to every network he sees. There's a wonderful quote from Bill Gates that, they're in a hotel that didn't have Wi-Fi access. Gets a call from Paul Allen, who's in the room a couple of doors down. Hey, come on over, I've got access to a Linksys. So you've actually got a magazine article where Bill Gates admits to committing felony theft of service. There is no justice in the world. But, as we've all seen here, there are hotspots absolutely everywhere. Coffee shops, hotels, airports. How many of you actually use them while you're on the road? Well, for a number of you. How many of you actually pay? I'm not making any judgments, but okay. Hotspots, as you know, generally do not encrypt. It was actually really nice to see that the network here was offering WPA options, and even the hotel network was offering some options for WPA. Good to see. But generally, it's clear text between you and the access point. Clear text means it's easy to read. I can see all the traffic going by. I can see your emails. I can see anything you're doing that's not SSL or non-encrypted. This also means that it's clear to inject, because if you have unauthenticated protocols and unauthenticated content, what can we replace? If you're not using a VPN, you're going to be screwed with. Being at a con in Norway with a half a dozen other convention regulars, I was always the one getting blamed for anything that went weird on the network. You'd think I had some sort of reputation or something. I don't know. Is this guy sitting back there laughing at me? Man in the middle attacks, password snarfing. This is something everybody here should know about. It exists. I do it all the time when I get bored. I don't save it, but it's entertaining to look at. People have no creativity in passwords. The best one I heard last night, Ninja Scrotum. Think about this. This is something that goes through my mind every time I'm at a hotel. At DEF CON last year, the hotel network had about 20 access points when I came in on the Wednesday. There was over 160 by Sunday. Which ones are the real ones? Okay, I'm glad that that's not here.
It's coming.
Ah, crap. I am armed. Always assume the attacker's on the local network. While in Norway, I decided to be a dick. This is the first time I'd ever traveled to another continent, so spending time in international airports and that, and at this conference that with people who I was informed were generally knowledgeable about security, but not necessarily technical security. Let's see how what the level of knowledge of these people is. So I decided to fire up AirPwn and see what sort of content I could redirect and replace. First image I started injecting, I started seeing popping up on people's laptops. A lot of head scratching. You know, 8-foot kayak, 10-foot shark. That says pwned. Started injecting this, you'd see somebody pull up Google News or something, or pull up their webmail, and they see the same little icon. But the problem was it kept getting shrink down to this tiny little icon. You couldn't really tell what it was. So not many people noticed. They were like, okay, maybe something's weird, whatever. But kind of sitting there after the first day, let's up the ante here. Let's see how this room full of people, how they deal with seeing this every time they load an image.
And you wonder why they thought it was you.
I didn't get punched in the face, but I had some people coming up to me going, dude, how are you hacking my laptop? Why are you hacking my laptop? What did I do to you? Come to my talk. Yeah, I filled the room. It was highly entertaining. It was really interesting to see how many people, these were some bright people. I mean, I was seeing this on, semantic computer, vendor computers. I was seeing this on all of these, everybody's computers, because they just weren't thinking. They were going for, there was 3 networks there. There was an open one, a web encrypted one, and a WPA one. They were using the open one almost exclusively. I think there was only 3 clients I saw through the entire weekend. Yes, I was sniffing all the traffic. There was only 3 that were connected to the web network, and I think it was 1 that connected to the WPA one. And I think that was just for an administrative reason. So you need to, if the options exist, you really need to tell the users, like, dude, it's there, use it. How many of you have used the WPA network here? How many of you have just used the open one? All right. Well, I wasn't actually transmitting. Well, the thing is, I wouldn't dare put this kind of experiment here because a lot of people know me, and more likely to kick me in the nuts. So, but basically, you start looking, and even last night, we were Robin Wright is he? Robin Wright wrote some patches for Karma to get it working under Mad Wi-Fi, and basically we spent a couple of hours beating it to work under Ubuntu. Somebody connected to my computer as Karma, Global Suite Wireless, and started hitting Yahoo Mail, started hitting some really interesting company name emails, mail servers, trying to get out. Of course, I didn't have net access, but I was seeing them try to do the host lookups. Even at a security conference here, somebody was doing something interesting. Stuff still works, and I mean, Karma's been around a couple of years now. I mean, the last version released, I think, was 2006. So, still a very real threat, still very useful. And I mean, this was at 3 o'clock in the morning, and only sick bastards like me are up that hour playing on the wireless network. So you gotta wonder who it is. New things like hacking the friendly skies by our friend here, Simple Nomad. One of the better stories that I've ever heard is, you got the CEO guy sitting up the front of the plane, first class, sipping his champagne while you're back in cattle class, wondering if there's more room in the overhead compartment than your seat. You're sitting there, he's working away on his laptop. Despite all the warnings the stewardesses give you and everything, he's probably still got his wireless on, chewing up his battery. Well, the best story I ever heard was a friend of mine visiting a client site, going there to do a penetration test. One of the top level guys for the site was sitting in first class while they were back in cattle class. They connected him and pre-owned his box before they even landed. So when he plugged it into the network back at the office, opens up a back door for them. They can waltz right in. So if Bob is traveling and he's constantly working on his laptop, you could sit there screwing with him through the entire flight. You know, if you crash the plane, that's your own damn fault. By no means am I advocating you actually using this, but you know, Simple's got some wonderful stories about browsing people's shares, finding, you know, private documents, getting all sorts of background information on these people, going up, you know, dressed as he is and scaring the living shit out of them. You know, hey Bob, how you doing? How's the kids? You know, how's the boss? You know, how's that project going? You know, people look at you, it's like, what fresh hell did you crawl out of? You know? But also, it's not just the data that he had, that Bob would have with him personally. Things like the cafe latte exploit that came out last year, where I can sit there and with your laptop, if it's on and is ever connected to a web encrypted network back at your office, I can sit there cranking away and extract the web key from your computer, even if it's not connected to anything. It just has to have, I just have to be able to interact with your network card. You know, I know Bob works for Widgets International. I want to target Widgets International. I get the web key from him, and I can just go right down to headquarters, plug in, and away we go. You all remember what happened at TJX. You know, that was a web encrypted network that got the foothold into the whole thing. You know, that turned into a bad situation. You know, I mean, there's other jackassery one can do, like DDoS attacks, but, you know, if the wireless network is on, it's probably pwnable in some way. You know, we all know this. Why aren't we teaching our users this? You know, what do? Turn the damn things off. Like, I've got mine off right now. I'm saving battery life. The number of times I see stuff on airplanes chewing up batteries. I mean, if you're on an 8-hour flight and you got a 6-hour battery, well, turn off the Wi-Fi. You might get a little extra. VPNs, use them. Assume you're being attacked, particularly if I'm around. You know. Some of the better stories I've heard actually is customer networks. You know, you got a sales guy goes onto a customer wireless network to get access to whatever documents. How do you know that customer's not sniffing your traffic, looking to see what your margin is on your products to know how much he can talk you down? You know, other things like that. Or use that as leverage when they're going against their competitors, saying, "Oh, I know that, you know, widgets cost this much. You know, how much can you do? You know, playing those kind of games." So, hear your shit. Yeah. How many have got sales guys that always seem to have the phone glued to their head, and you really wish they did give you cancer? You know, a number of you. I have a personal hatred for Bluetooth headsets. I mean, I have them. I use them when I'm driving, you know, when you actually need a hands-free situation. But those guys that have them on all the time, I have a very special place in my heart to screw with them. Thank you. How pretentious is it that you are, you know, standing in line at a Dunkin' Donuts, that you're so important that you have to get that phone call within 2 seconds? I mean, there's, oh, I wish I had loaded it up, but there's a wonderful Bud Light commercial. You know, guys picking up no, it's Keystone Light. Guys picking up the case of beer out of the fridge at the store, and this really hot woman comes up behind him and says, "Yeah, you know, so I was wondering, you know, did you want to go to a party tonight?" "Oh, me? Yeah, sure." Like, "Hold on. What? Sorry?" You know, got the headset on, you know, goes on, you know, pitches the product, comes back to the till, and she's standing behind the guy as he's paying. He's like, "Yeah, I'd really like to apologize for that earlier." Turns out, "Oh, that's okay." "Sorry, what?" I hate those things. So, some other things you see, I'm not sure, like I haven't seen a lot of it in Canada. I don't know if it's in the States, but I know out of South Africa they're using SMS messages for authentication with internet banking. So you do a transaction, and before the transaction goes through, it SMSs you a verification code that you have to enter, you know, to verify that, you know, it's not somebody that's just swiped your username and password. They also would have had to swipe your phone and, you know, all that stuff. So, and another layer that has actually been used to phone somebody and get their bank account information. And how many of you have like massive amounts of company, you know, private information on your phone directory listings? I mean, think about this, like things like the iPhone and, you know, all these all the PDAs. There's a massive amount of company info in these things. They're not just a phone anymore. Does anybody actually make a cell phone that just makes calls anymore? No? No? All right. I'm not talking about the old Motorola bricks, you know.
No, seriously, the flip phone with large numbers as a result.
Okay. Jitterbug, yeah, kids one. Yeah, could you see Bob wandering around with like a bright green phone? Yeah. Bluetooth threats are something that we're not seeing nearly as much in North America as I'd like because it's not getting nearly the attention that it should as it is across the pond. When I was this past Christmas, I live in Edmonton, which is home to West Edmonton Mall, one of the world's largest shopping malls. And when you're standing around in that orgy of consumerism, you look around and you realize how many people are carrying, wireless devices, how many, all the stores and everything have wireless. So I decided to see, okay, has anybody learned anything from TJX? Crap load of stores were running WEP. They were running WEP and totally puntable. The other thing I did at the same time was ran a Bluetooth scan. It took me 3 days in the world's largest mall at the busiest time of year, in the middle of, friggin' prairies in Canada, to get over 450 devices. I got 450 devices standing still at a con in Norway in 3 hours. So it gives you an idea of the scale of how much Bluetooth is across the pond as compared to here. But that's just sort of an aside to give you an idea of the scale. Really, a paired device gets access to the whole device. So if I pair my phone and it's got all profiles enabled, and I pair with it with my computer, I get full access to the device. There's no root user, there's no limited users. Sometimes that can happen, but in general, you get access to the whole damn thing. Read, write, SMS messages, phone books. How many of you Bluejack? Send messages to random people. One down here. It gets more interesting when you realize I can do AT commands as well on a lot of phones. Maybe not as much in North America, but specifically in Europe, which leads to premium rate calls. Which means we can now make Bob call Madame Whipsalot Fun Time Party Line on the company dime for 9 hours. Try explaining that one at expense time. This is rather sensationalistic, but it gets the
Sources
point
have
across.
reported that Britain is in the grip of a high-tech crime wave, and one of the latest targets is one of our closest friends.
Can you all hear it?
The mobile phone. Experts have discovered a security flaw in some of the most popular Bluetooth-enabled phones that allows others to hack into your handset and take control of it. Our hustlers are going to demonstrate for our hidden cameras just how vulnerable your phone can be to a silent attack. This is the Bluetooth scam.
The problem with some Bluetooth phones is you can make an unauthorized connection to the phone and effectively
Major.
take over the phone, read the contents out, so the phone book, SMS messages, even actually make calls with it.
So, how does the Bluetooth hack work? Our hustlers are going to demonstrate it here. Jess and Paul's phones have their Bluetooth turned on. Alex uses his mobile pocket PC. Because of a security flaw in Jess's phone, he is able to locate the Bluetooth signal, hack
know
directly into the
Bluetooth sends
handset,
out little blue
and take
lines.
control of it. Now he can make a call from Jess's phone to Paul's phone. This technique is known as bluejacking.
The Bluetooth hustle works by using the Bluetooth feature on mobile phones. It's a very modern, very useful, very easy piece of technology. They can connect to your phone without you knowing it. Your phone will not even show that it's connected to something.
They're now ready to test it on the public. Alex has set his pocket computer to search for Bluetooth signals. Now he's pinpointed a mark with an enabled handset. He can go for the hack. Now he's in and making a call using the Mark's phone. But where's the actual scam here? It's
What
in the
Bluetooth
number
feature
that
is
Alex
that?
is calling from the Mark's phone. Our hustlers have set up their own premium rate line where calls are charged at £1.50 a minute. So this guy is having the money taken from his pocket, but he's totally oblivious. And if the Mark doesn't realise his phone is calling the hustler's premium line, during his journey between Manchester and Liverpool, he will lose £75 in call charges. Ouch. So, if Alex spends some time here, he can really take home the bacon. In an hour, he manages to target 20 phones with an average call time of 15 minutes, making him a grand total of £500. Our hustlers have proved for those with the technology and the know-how, this is a really money-spinning scam.
The simplest and best way to protect yourself against this scam is just simply to keep your Bluetooth turned off unless you're actually using it.
If you do not switch off the Bluetooth feature on your phone when you're not using it, you're in danger of somebody finding a way in.
There's lots of seats over here, guys. You don't have to sit on the floor. Yeah. I'm glad. I know the feeling. All right. Basically, as you saw, set up a 1-900 number with some name that somebody's not going to want to ever have seen. Make them, connect to their phone, make AT&T, make them call it. Rather than trying to get money back from the phone company for calling a number, some S&M line or something like that. People are just going to pay it. So I'm really waiting to hear about that coming over on this side of the pond. It should be interesting. The headsets, invariably, there's no keypad on them. They use the default pin. A lot of car hands-free connection sets use a default pin. I'm sure you've all heard of Car Whisperer. Listening to conversations, like driving down the highway and having some Audi want to connect to me and my laptop while I'm war driving is just freaking me out because I'm going 80 miles an hour here. Why is another car trying to talk to me? This should not be happening. Listening to conversations, if I know Bob and his boss are talking on their way to the airport, in a rental car with one of these headsets, I just follow along listening to the private conversation because they think they're in this nice little box moving at high speed, but really they're sitting there broadcasting. Injecting audio can be a lot of fun. Car Whisperer. Another thing to consider is, I know a lot of procedures for secure facilities. When you go into a top secret meeting or something, you have to take your phone out, put it on the table, take the battery out, and put it in front of you. I cannot actually find any procedures for Bluetooth headsets. So when you turn off your phone and take out the battery, it defaults into discoverable mode. Your headset disconnects and defaults into discoverable mode. You now have a bug in their boardroom. It's sitting there, and anybody who can connect can now listen into the conversations. Think about that. Turn the damn things off. But what I really, really, really want to do is with those headsets, be able to disconnect an entire room full of bankers. Some of these guys that, I'm all money, I make, $50,000 a day, yada, yada, yada. Take those guys, disconnect all of them, connect up with their headsets, and just say, I know where you hid the money. And see who runs. I can be a bastard. But, generally, we could, anybody remember this little scene? We can now actually do this. Stop touching yourself, Kent. It is God. Turn off damn Bluetooth. My phone will go 3 days without a charge, but with Bluetooth on, I'm lucky to get about 8 hours. How many of you actually use Bluetooth, on your phones? Right. How many of you guys, is it just for headsets?
UVDO.
CarKit.
CarKit, headset, same thing.
I tried, but it didn't work, so I
Good. Change default pins. If you're running anything with default passwords, that's dumb. On the Microsoft Sync stuff?
On the boards.
Okay, I drive a 2,000 Grand Am. I haven't had a chance to go at this, and generally one walks into the lot with a whole bunch of RF equipment and says, yeah, can I borrow one of your cars for about an hour? No, they don't. They look at you funny and then, call security. Yeah. Yeah, but when you're carrying a fridge-size amount of RF gear with you, this is more than a test drive. Yeah. If anybody has access to some of that sync stuff or any of the headset stuff, I would like to just find out what some of the information is in the manual about that, how much detail they go into, if they actually are specifying any of these threats. But a lot of PDAs, stuff like that, you can change pins. Some of the newer headsets, you can actually plug into your computer and change the pin on those. Prompt for pairing, some devices will just take anything that wants to pair with it. This is dumb, again, no authentication. Just turn off the damn headsets when you're not in use and take them out so I don't have to stare at that little blue light in your head and wondering if you're just talking to somebody or if you're actually schizophrenic. Or both. Keys. Now this isn't really a new thing for a lot of us, but keys are so often ignored. Proximity cards, those little clamshell RFID cards. How many of you have seen people carrying them on lanyards all day? How many of you seen like the warehouse store where the guy's got a big armful of boxes and he's got the thing in his back pocket and he's doing that big ass scraping thing against the wall trying to get it to work? We've all seen them. These people wear them all the time. You see the common ones on the top. Sometimes they'll be like their ID card, their picture and ID and everything. Most of these things have been around 10, 15 years. They're not encrypted. You just hit them with a signal, they barf back a number. If that number matches what's in the database and they have access to that door, click, it opens, away you go. CQ.CUX, Jonathan Westhughes, a freakishly bright guy, sat down one day and decided, this is an RF device. I'm going to build my own. And this is actually just his first version. He's actually refined this thing a lot. A couple coin cells. Basically, you hit one button, hold it up next to the card, sucks the code off. Hit the other button, plays it back. Who are the two people in an office that would typically have access to everything? Janitor and CEO. CEO, a little harder to get a hold of. Janitor, come in at 6 o'clock when he's coming in and say, hey, buddy, really good job on cleaning my office, beep. I mean, nobody's going to question the janitor going around at 2 o'clock in the morning into all these, R&D departments and everything like that. There's actually some really interesting stuff that, I don't want to give away anything that Zach's working on, but Zach from DEF CON, when we were in Norway, was playing with some really fun stuff with RFID and door tags that I think was he going to actually do that in DEF CON? I think at DEF CON, but makes this thing look like tinfoil. Like, amazing stuff. Traditional keys are also vulnerable. Basically, I know Mouse alluded to this in her talk, but a couple of years ago, Diebold, now Premier Election Systems, these are the guys that own, between them and ESNS have 80% of the market for the U.S. elections. If you went to their web store, you could order extra keys for the units, and these keys were, for everybody, for every machine that they made. They actually posted, the documentation photo. This is what a key is. That is the actual bidding of the keys that open all the Diebold voting machines. And this key was so common, it was like the sort of thing you'd find on a minibar, like the absolute cheapest key. And jukeboxes. It was, they must have got them on sale or something, because that's the only way you can explain it. But, there it goes. But this is actually video of them using, some guy, had blanks of the key, sent them filed ones, boink. So this is without the guy even ever having access to the lock. This was just him saying, I copied it from a picture online, sent it to guys who were doing an audit at the time on these things, and boink. So all of those people you see, they've got the big key rings and everything like that. Johnny Long's really good at that in his no-tech hacking talk. Going up and just doing random, pictures of people's ID cards and everything. They could copy your keys just by taking a photo of them. Think about that one. Passports. Okay. This is a whole other talk in and of itself about passports and the new RFID passports. But I'm just going to go quickly. These things can be easily read. Major malfunction's actually been really good in getting a lot of press on this issue. The original ICAO specifications did not actually specify anything to block these signals. The method that they said it had to be encrypted, but the problem is you can't have like some database of keys for every passport, and you got to find a way to correlate them. So the key is actually on the machine readable zone, which if you actually like look at your passport, it's just the text at the very bottom of the picture page that they swipe through the machine. And from there you get, passport number, birth date, a few other bits of information. Those are used to then assemble a key. So think about it. You've got a passport that comes in the mail. You know it's been issued between the time when they started issuing RFID cards and today. So that severely reduces your key space there if you're using the issue date, or the expiry date, excuse me. Sequence numbers, I know I believe it was Belgium, every day they went up by 50,000. So if you knew approximately the date that it was issued, very small key space. Birth dates, very small key space. So yeah, it's like a 40-bit key, but you've effectively reduced the search space to a very small amount. And the US, to their credit, did put in a tinfoil hat in the front and back cover. But if you see, you've got text scrolling here, because that metal foil, it's self-defeating. Yes, it blocks the signals, but it naturally makes the passport want to pop open. And when it pops open, you can read the damn thing. Yes, it is encrypted, but if it's sitting in a purse or if it's sitting in a loose pocket or something, it can still be read. The whole point was to keep this thing closed and from being read, but it's actually springing the damn thing open. This was at HackCon in Norway last year, but And I've actually spoken to the number 2 guy at the State Department that was in charge of this whole thing, and it was literally one of those WTF moments. And he's like, he was waving around his passport as a demonstration at this talk I was at, and I asked him, could you please put it down? Okay, stands it on its edge. No, just lay it flat on the table, lays it down. The thing pops open an inch, and I'm like, you do realize that can be read. The look on his face was priceless. So, to stay with passports though, but think about it. Identity theft, threats of terrorism. He did make the point though that everybody's worried that you could pick an American out of a crowd and use it to target them for bombing, kidnapping, whatever. I'm sorry, but everybody on this side of the pond, when we go overseas, we stand out. We stick out like sore thumbs, so that's not as big a threat. However, if I'm abusing your passport in a foreign land, and I use it to, say, get into the United States, and then you try to get home, you're going to have some explaining to do why you've come into the country twice and not left. But think about it. It is meant as a forgery protection method. So you now have to forge the picture that's actually on the thing, all the other counterfeit protections, forge the face that you have because it has to match the picture and match the digital version. Problem is that if I get the digital version, in a lot of cases you actually have the original photo that it was done with, and it's not defaced. It doesn't have anything stamped across it. So you can take that digital one and remake the physical one. This is not smart in my mind. Again, I'm a foreign national. I'm just offering some critiques here. Please don't shoot me. Oh, little of ahead of schedule. When I finish, I want to get some volunteers. I'm going to hand out a bunch of shmoo balls. I want to go attack the other talks. I want to raid. Basically, the only talk I wanted to go to at this one was Josh's, and he's right over there right now. So. All right. Bob works trade shows. How many of you have ever had to work a trade show booth? Sucks, doesn't it? Now imagine me wandering around that sales floor. If you're demoing widgets, you need to show how wonderful this new thing is, this new product you've got. It needs to actually work. We're all familiar with the demonstration effect. When I was in Norway, they were asking me 5 minutes before my presentation, could you show more demos on things like, cracking stuff? No. There's always one jackass in the back with a transmitter that's just going to jam me, and mess things up. It just doesn't work. So what happens when you take something that is common and everyday, we all have one, we all deal with it, an unauthenticated, unencrypted protocol, and take it to a trade show? Don't try this one at home.
Motorola's focus is about making sure that we deliver devices.
But that was an awesome video.
Motorola's focus is about Motorola's focus is about making sure that we deliver devices for the consumer. And you can just wait a moment because I mean some of the screens have just gone down.
Whoa, just lost picture?
Guitar Hero. I love that look.
So this is where we bring on the dancing girls to keep you entertained for a few minutes while we just get things together. I think we're going to ignore this screen and we're going to get going on the rest, so I do apologise for the technical pitch. Let's take a look at what he got up to on his trip to Vegas.
Jeremy, thanks for the camera car, thanks for the credit card. I'm going to do my best to spend your money wisely and show off what your phone can do for your conference in Vegas.
Mid-air, 2 to 0. Just lost picture one more time.
1, 2, 3, go!
And they're playing a game right now.
What you're witnessing here is broadband history in the making. Let me explain. We have these. Hold on,
Done right here. Wow, this screen is going wacko-macko up here.
Basically, Gizmodo was given a bunch of TV begons by Make Magazine. They're not allowed back. But, you know, infrared, you know, how many years of TVs had infrared remotes? You know, and CES, Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, you know, year of the TVs. A couple of jackasses is all it takes to make your life really, really miserable. I think about it, you're running through an airport, the guy's like, okay, where's my connection? Like, click. You know, turns off the screen, you know, turn off the screen. Yeah, oh yeah, it's been in watch. I remember being in high school in my physics class, you know, we're watching a video, just sitting there going, beep, pause, you know, hit play, just generally confuse people. But, you know, you have to feel sorry. I am not condoning them, specifically that Motorola guy, because they're sitting there, this guy's trying to do work, and they're turning his shit off and screwing with his ability to work. I mean, that's not cool. But it really makes the point that if you're that Motorola guy, you know, a little tiny square of duct tape over the IR sensor is all it would have taken. You know, the comments from Gizmodo was, you know, they're really glad that that big, was it Samsung 150-inch plasma monster that they had there didn't have an active IR port. This one might seem a little familiar. Are these folks in the room? No shit flying at me yet, so that's impressive. Last year at ShmooCon, right place, right time, and I got bored. Again, that's usually a bad thing. There was a particular company's booth. I was standing next to it waiting for registration. You know, they were giving away little USB hubs plugged into a laptop, running a demo. And I happen to have a USB switchblade with me. And for those of you who don't know, you plug this in, it auto-runs like a CD, and runs a script that dumps all the passwords to the flash drive. Yeah, so I wasn't content with just dumping their passwords. I projected them on the screen and behind them, and stood on a chair and made a very loud pronouncement. I did scrub their passwords. I'm not a complete dick, but, you know, my God, none of them are here and throwing shit at me. They knew I was doing this. Thank you. Well, you know, I haven't pwned anybody this year. I've been good, but it was that easy. Right place, right time. And, you know, I dumped all their passwords, and some of them were used repeatedly. Now, I will give them their credit. It was a marketing laptop. It was configured for running just demos. Didn't have any internal company passwords on it. But the person who's used it used the same password a lot, so one could probably make conjectures as to what their company passwords actually were. So what have we done to Bob? Pwned his laptop, pwned his data, his cell phone, his keys, his demos, and even his ability to work. Anybody got any suggestions how else we could pwn him? Yep. Blackberries. I honestly don't know enough about them because I don't have enough money to get one. But considering that if you could cause any sort of outage, the fact that these people usually end up in a small ball on the floor weeping, you know, again, that's that whole ability to, you know, there's the outage last week or the week before? It was just one the other day. Yeah, and these people just, I gotta get it. You know, this subscribing to sites like dataoutages.com, which is run by my friend John, to keep track of these things, but he's absolutely amazed at how many people have, you know, the fact that there's an outage email, go to their BlackBerry.
From Canada, you wouldn't want to attack a homeland company.
Yep.
There was a recent discussion, I don't remember which security group it was in, that said that a lot of the laptops have a switch on it that says turn off your Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't turn off the Wi-Fi.
It just cuts out the antenna.
You can still create incoming connections to it. You just can't create outgoing connections.
Yeah, because the antenna is basically disconnected. It's basically saying that a lot of the times the switch just disconnects the antenna, but doesn't actually turn off the chipset. So sometimes you can create incoming connections, but it just can't respond. So there's, you know, possible vectors there, which would be interesting. So, anybody got any other suggestions? Any suggestions on how we can actually educate these people, other than large clue bats and, you know, several days in you know, isolation? Yeah, take their stuff away. But something to think about, something to suggest. Yeah. Any questions, comments? You know, email me. Big thanks to friend Rob T. Firefly. He did all the Bob illustrations because I can't draw worth shit. So, all right. So I need a couple of volunteers to come up. I want to go over to Josh's talk and throw shit at him.
Go to the back, take